Masking is a cool trick increasingly popular on modern websites for creating unique and eye-catching designs. It helps in crafting distinctive shapes and seamless transitions between different parts of a web page. In this video, we will dive into CSS masking and walk through two super simple but widely used visual effects. Welcome to Optimistic Web, where we explore the world of CSS and front-end development, one step at a time. Let's first go through the starter code I've prepped for this demo. We will use the card CSS class as our playground to understand the basics of CSS masking. The card is wrapped inside a parent container. The CSS here is quite simple. It has very basic styling to set a responsive width and assigns a gradient background to the card. The outer element adds a border, while the card itself has the background. Basically, masking is a technique used to hide parts of an element without actually erasing them. You might have already used this concept in graphic design software like Photoshop, Illustrator, or something like that. It involves at least two elements: the main element to be masked and a second element used as the mask to selectively hide parts of the main element. For example, we can use the card as the main element and apply the mask image property to set the mask layer. The flower.png image I'm using in this demo is a raster image with a mix of opaque and transparent pixels. The opaque pixels define where the element will be visible, while the transparent pixels hide the corresponding parts of the element. Since the mask image is too large to fit within the card, we can use the mask size property to adjust the mask's dimensions however we like. By setting the size to 50%, we can display two instances of the mask in both directions. When a single value is provided, it applies to both the width and height. If a second value is given, it will control the height specifically. Additionally, the mask repeat property allows us to specify how the mask repeats, whether horizontally, vertically, or along both axes simultaneously. We can also define the position of the masked area using the mask position property, which accepts either position values or keywords. If only one value is provided, the second one defaults to the center. Just like the background size property in CSS, mask size also supports the contain and cover keywords. You might have noticed that these mask-related properties look similar to the background properties. For instance, we have background image and mask image, background position and mask position, background size and mask size, as well as background repeat and mask repeat. Just like the background shorthand, the mask shorthand can also be used to combine all mask properties into a single declaration. You can arrange the values in the mask shorthand in any order, but with one exception. The mask size value must follow the mask position value, and these two need to be separated by a /. CSS masking isn't limited to PNG images. You can also use SVGs or gradients to create visually appealing masking effects. Let me reset the playground to its initial state and add an image to the HTML. As I mentioned earlier, we can use gradients as a mask layer. In this example, the first color of the linear gradient is transparent, while the second color is opaque. This makes the top part of the image transparent and leaves the bottom part fully visible. This is similar to using the transparent keyword instead of explicitly defining the alpha channel for a color. We can also set the transparency level with a custom alpha channel value. And just like we set gradient backgrounds, we can use the same format to define its direction to get the desired result. Now let's take it a step further and experiment with different combinations of mask properties. In this example, the gradient starts with an opaque color, transitioning to a color stop at 25%. From 25 to 50%, it becomes transparent, then turns opaque again from 50 to 75%, and finally ends with transparent pixels from 75 to 100%. And if we adjust the mask size for a reduced vertical axis, it creates a unique effect of horizontal stripes. These two lines of CSS can also be combined into a shorthand format, where 00 specifies the mask position, followed by the mask size. Then, in this updated version, the gradient remains the same as before, but we've added a 45-degree angle. Combining this with a mask size of 10% creates a nice zigzag pattern. It's not just linear gradients. Radial gradients can also produce creative visual effects. For example, by using a radial gradient where the first color is transparent and the second is opaque, we can create circular transparency starting from the center of the image. And then, adding hard transitions with identical color stops forms a perfect circle. One thing to note here is that if the parent element has a different width to height ratio, then this setup will produce an ellipse. Since we're working with a square in this example, we have a perfect circle. And then, positioning a radial mask is simple. By specifying the position, we can move it to places like the bottom, center, or even mention a specific point. As before, tweaking the mask size can create amazing effects, like a wave-like pattern. In this next version, we're creating a radial mask with a size of 30 pixels, positioned at the center horizontally and 30 pixels from the top. By setting its position to 50% horizontally and minus 30 pixels vertically, combined with a mask size of 50 pixels and 100%, we generate a repeatable pattern at the top and bottom boundaries. Adjusting the size and position values allows us to create a variety of unique designs. That was all the theory. Now let's quickly explore a widely used example of CSS masking. Imagine we have a hero image, a page title, and some content. We set the aspect ratio and object fit properties on the image to maintain a width to height ratio. Then, we move the page title slightly upward to overlap the image, and with some basic styling for the content, the page looks like this. Now I want the image to smoothly fade out and blend with the background and the overlapping content. This is where CSS masking throws its magic. We only need a single line of CSS with a mix of opaque and transparent pixels. The color stop can be adjusted based on the desired look and feel. What we're doing here is adding a mask layer on top of the image, making the top 60% part visible, and then from that point, the transparency gradually fades in. And with this simple one-liner, we were able to create a smooth blending effect, seamlessly transitioning the image into the background. It's a small piece of code, but it makes a huge impact on the overall look and feel of the page. CSS Mask offers a lot of creative freedom, helping us move away from cookie-cutter designs. It's especially useful now as web design trends shift toward more natural shapes and interactive elements. There are a few more properties related to masking, such as mask border, mask mode, and mask origin, that can help create more advanced effects. But to keep this video short and focused, we will save those for a future tutorial. If working with CSS gradients feels a bit overwhelming, I would suggest checking out my detailed video on creating seamless patterns with CSS gradients. It might make things easier. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow developers, and subscribe to stay updated. Feel free to leave any questions or comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.